I'm going to have a camel, and I'm going to talk about Myers-Briggs personalities and personality types in general, and why you should understand yourself and your personality type. These are unfiltered. So, I'm sure a lot of you out there have taken the 16 personalities tests, or some sort of personality test, because there's the Enneagram one too. But I'm just going to talk about the Myers-Briggs personality types. This is amazing, by the way. One of my favorites. Just full, smooth somehow, without a filter. There's no harshness. It's crazy. I said before that I like Camel cigarettes, and this allows the full body of the flavor. You experience the full experience of what Camel has to offer with these. I'm very thankful that they still have them available in the United States. It's very sweet, and it has an earthy tone to it. So, I've taken the test multiple times throughout my life, and I've always gotten to someone who doesn't know, I would look up, if you don't know about the Myers-Briggs personalities, I would look them up. I would look it up and do your own research. It'll take, like maybe 10 minutes to figure out, or to understand like what I'm going to be talking about. Basically, there's 4 letters, and you take the test and you find out which 4 letters you are, and each slot, there's 4 slots, and each slot has 2 different types of letters. So it's a combination of 16, I think. 16 different, it's 16 personalities, so yeah, 16 different combinations. I'm not going to be able to explain it as well as Google will, so I'll just talk about it, and if you don't understand, you can do your own research, because it won't take that long. I always tested as a feeler, and I almost always tested as a intuitive. So I was very confused with the Myers-Briggs personalities, because every time I would take the test, and then I would like do research on that type and, you know, watch YouTube videos and stuff. And I just didn't really identify much with the types that I was typing as. And it wasn't until I started looking into the actual functions, like the individual functions, and after I tested recently, and the result I got was spot on for me, and it was such an eye-opening or mind-opening experience, because my whole life I thought I was a feeling type person, and I had that image of myself, and it was very confusing because I'm a very logical person, but I always thought that I was a feeling type person. I grew up with my whole family, most of my family are intuitive feelers, so I was heavily influenced by those. And just to maybe help you explain or help you understand my specific experience, I'm an ISTP. So I stands for introvert, S stands for sensory versus intuition. So it's introvert or extrovert, sensing versus intuition, thinking versus feeling, and judging versus prospecting. So I am an ISTP. And if you do research on ISTPs, we can have trouble sometimes with our identity, because it's easy for us to just not really listen to how we feel and do what we think we should be doing. And so I thought I was a feeler, so I would kind of have that self-image even though it didn't really match how I felt. And I can explain that to make it easier to understand. So for me, what that means is me personally, I don't really feel, on a day-to-day basis, I don't really feel anything. I'm just at a very level, I'm very level emotionally. I don't really feel anything. When I feel an emotion, like a strong emotion, it's kind of few and far between, and that's just kind of how I'm chemically made. And I believe that the Myers-Briggs personality theory is very think there's a deer, because I hear I just want to make sure that I don't startle a wild animal. Hold on a second. You know what, let me pause it. Alright. It was a doe, a female deer. Alright, where was I? I don't really feel anything. Oh, sorry. What I was saying is, I believe in the Myers-Briggs personality theory, because it is a theory. It's not, I don't know how proven it is, but I think it is one of the so-called pseudosciences that does have some validity. It's not something like astrology, where it's highly debatable whether it's, it has any grounds in reality. I definitely believe that any person of any background, if they do enough research into the information, that they would agree that there is at least there's enough information, there's enough validity to the information that it's worth looking into. So that's why I highly recommend that you find out. It's basically a really good way to compartmentalize yourself, because I think that it's important to have a level of categorizing with things, especially yourself, because I think it's really easy to overcomplicate and to infinitely complicate yourself, and that is not productive. If you want to be a productive person and you want to progress mentally and emotionally and personally, as a person in general, if you want to progress, it's very important that you compromise with categorization, because at the end of the day, you are a person and you have tendencies, and people are creatures of habit, and we have physical chemistry in our brains, like neurologically, that influence us to think and view things a certain way. And that's why, if you know your personality type, I believe that you can more easily understand the problems that you have personally, whether it's emotionally or even socially, trying to understand how you compare with other people, how you interact with other people, how you think versus how other people think. Because if you study the personality types in general and not just yourself, you can understand why other people are different than you. and you can just kind of understand humanity more. And I think that's highly valuable for everyone, because it helps people be more understanding of themselves and others. And that's the key to a happy society. A working society is understanding yourself and understanding other people, and then respecting that. So my personal experience, I can only give my personal experience to try to convince you my point of taking it a bit seriously, serious enough in the sense that you just, if you merely just take the test, see if you identify with what you get, do the research, and delve a little bit more into the functions, whether it's, just examples of the functions. If you're looking online, the functions are like when you see something like TI, FE, NI, stuff like that. Learn how, there's so many YouTube videos on how to understand how the functions work with each other to create a personality type, which is basically just a tendency of mind, just the way that an individual thinks and views things. So I've always typed as an introvert. I've always known that I'm introverted. I get and it's not just that I get energy from being alone. I also, it's more than that. It's more specific, where, introverted versus extroverted. If you're introverted, if you're truly introverted, if the way you think is introverted, to be clear, just trying to be clear with the way that I speak, you just view the world and interactions with other people in a personal, like an individual level, rather than a external social level. So the easy way of saying that is to say that, I get energy from talking to people and being around people, versus I get energy from being, alone. And being more specific, it delves more into, if you were to research that, it would be more along the lines of how you make decisions, how you create values and create beliefs. So an introverted person does it on a very personal level, where they're more concerned with what they experience, and then that experience, the experiencing part, can be more logical, like thinking based, or emotional, feeling based. So a feeling type person is someone who has values that are based on emotion, and a thinking based person has values that are based on logic. So if you are an extroverted feeler, you tend to care about what the group feels, how they feel, how do they feel about things. If you're an introverted feeler, you care about how you feel and how you feel about things, and you base your opinions and beliefs on how you feel, what makes you feel good. And it's the opposite with a thinking type person. A thinking oriented person, if they're extroverted, they are thinking about what works for the system or the society, or logically what works for the group. And then an introverted thinker is someone who is more individual with how they create their own beliefs through their own experience, and a bit less of what other people experience logically. That's a very rough, non-expert way of explaining it, but I just want you to get the gist of it. My experience has been, as someone whose type tends to, if I develop a value logically, I don't really pay attention to whether I feel good about it or not, I guess. I've always had trouble with understanding emotion, and one of the reasons why I would always type as a feeling type is there would be these questions like that would confuse me and trip me up. Like one of them is something like along the lines of like do you like I do what I feel is right, and I would usually put yes, because I do what I feel is right. What's right I do. If I know something to be right, then I will do it. But it's actually, that would categorize you as a feeling type person. So that's why the test itself is not exactly accurate, and that's why people can get tripped up, as I have. And my personal experience with discovering that I'm actually a logic thinking based person, because I've always had this insecurity about being too emotional, even though I'm not emotional. But I think the fear of that is because I'm not emotional naturally, but thinking that I am an emotional person, I believe that I have a tendency to be not factual. That might seem insane, but I think it's really easy for people to just create like delusions about themselves that they don't realize that are completely wrong. It might seem weird that I'm saying that I'm just figuring out that I'm a logical person. Like you would think that you would know that, but I truly had a belief about myself that I was an illogical, emotional person, and I had to watch myself to make sure that I was being logical. And finding out or realizing that I'm actually a logic-based person, it's the night that I had all of this realization and was doing the research and realizing what my real issues were. My real issue was not that I felt too much. It was that I wasn't ever paying attention to how I feel, and or maybe I don't know how I feel, and me thinking that I would always find myself in situations or habits that I would feel like a cognitive dissonance, where I would be doing it because other people think that it is, or maybe they said something to me, or they told me, or I just observed other people and developed for myself this idea that I need to be doing something a certain way, or being a certain way. And if it wasn't something that I agreed with, emotionally, or personally, there would be this sense of fatigue and tiredness. And I think that that is just the emotion that I was feeling, but I just wasn't paying attention to it. And it would only come forward as a strong emotion when it became too strong to ignore. And that realization, when that hit me, because that's something that I've struggled with. I've struggled with being things that I don't truly want to be. It's like an ISTP type is a very personal type that doesn't necessarily follow rules, but ironically we have a weakness for creating our own rules that we don't agree with because we think that it's right. So I'm just doing this because it's right, or I'm doing this because it's what I'm supposed to be doing. So we ironically sometimes end up following the herd as a sheep, even though we think that, we're just doing the right thing. But it feels wrong. But we don't realize that because we're not really in tune with how we feel. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm just trying to explain a problem that I've had, and then finding out my personality type. Like, I had like I literally felt like the left side of my head like open up when I had this realization. It was almost like maybe what people would describe as an out-of-body experience, or like an epiphany. Like I literally experienced the physical feeling of what people describe as an epiphany, where it's like it opens up and I completely, it's because I had a huge shift where I viewed myself differently all of a sudden, and it was a very drastic thing because, what I described, it is drastic. It's drastic for me, viewing myself as an illogical person, having this insecurity about myself, and then realizing that it's just an insecurity that's based on misunderstanding, I guess. Yeah, it was very growth. Like there was a lot of growth that has happened ever since that day, that I realized that my mind works differently than how I've been telling myself it's been working. And that was very, it was actually pretty profound, and it was, it's been a very positive shift for me. So I'm making this video because I want you to find out your personality type. I want you to find it out. And I hope that this video wasn't too long and too distracting or boring, so that you didn't watch like the entirety of it, because obviously the second half is better than the first half, because I ramble a bit. But it is a pretty simple video. I really want you to figure out what your personality type is, and just know that just taking the test might not be accurate. So you need to do your own research. You always do your own research for everything. That's a rule you should have for yourself. if you're about self-improvement, I highly recommend that you look into it. I just understand myself better now. I understand my weaknesses now. And the habits and the reasons I would get into certain types of ruts and whatnot. Because it's also important to kind of understand, like, if you know your personality type, you can better understand, you can kind of narrow your focus on what you want to do. I'm a very hands-on person, and that is confirmed through my personality type. I just understand what I'm good at. I understand what comes naturally, and it's true. These are fucking good, man. They're definitely a treat. I don't have them all the time, because they're very strong. I want others to be inspired by my own experience and my thoughts. And I'm not necessarily a leader type. I like to have my space, my physical space. So having a channel where I make videos by myself, it really satisfies that ironic need or that ironic desire to help people. I hope that one person can be helped by each video that I make. I'm just more focused and I am more in tune with my own desires and my own feeling, because I understand that I'm not a feeling type person. I just know how to navigate myself. It's really helping me develop my life plan. And to not doubt it. To not second guess myself. You know, if my path is different than yours or than most people's. I really do enjoy making these videos. It's a nice use of my time. It's a nice use of my downtime. You know, when I complete what needs to be done, when I complete my work for my job, and then I complete my work for myself, for my future, and then I have downtime and I can sit and make a video just reflecting on things that I've learned, and so that even my downtime is useful, hopefully, for somebody. I just saw a bat fly. Because I just saw like a moth or something fly. So the bats are really important for keeping the bug population in check. Yeah, that's all.